On that note, I am going to call the meeting to order. This is actually a two-part meeting. The first part of the meeting is our public hearing, which is what we hold every year as part of our budget cycle, where we look forward to having input from our community members to support to help us support the board's initiatives. And so let me just kind of lay the land about what I think is going to happen tonight, or what I hope to have happen tonight. Susan Austin, who is our superintendent, has put together with her staff, which is, I believe, Sam, and there's Ken, and I believe there's Lori Lapine, and multiple others, are putting together this presentation for today. And there's about 8 to 10 slides that Susan and I will kind of go through. After the end of the slide presentation, I will then be opening it up to our public portion of the meeting, and I will open that with sort of what our sort of preamble or what we expect to have happen. We anticipate that this meeting can go to an hour, and then once this meeting is adjourned, the board itself will go into our working budget session. We ask if you are interested in joining us. You're more than welcome to do that. It's fun times. With that, without further ado, I would like to start our presentation. I don't know if that's you or
That's
Susan.
me.
All right.
Let me just get it up on the screen. Oops. There it is.
All right, thank you, Susan. So this is not how we normally do it. Actually, we normally hold our budget sessions in the senior center, but obviously for the reasons of the pandemic, we are doing it on Zoom. But over the course, actually starting January 1st, Susan Austin has joined us as our superintendent of Groton School System. And once again, I would like to just, actually, this is our first sort of official public meeting. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to sort of publicly announce that and also introduce you, Susan, and welcome, even though the board has been working with you for multiple years and actually for several meetings as a superintendent, but it's so good to be able to do that in the public. And on this slide is just the rest of the Board of Ed members. And I'm proud to say that we have all been working really hard through this past year. And they are there. Once again, my name is Kim Shepardson-Watson. I am the chair. Andrea Ackman is the vice chair. There's Dean Antipis, Jane Giuliani, Liz Porter, Rosemary Robertson, Rita Volkman, Jay Whiteliff, and Lee White are round off the incredible Board of Education that we have. I promise I'm not going to read all the program elements because it's there and there's a lot, but I just want to let people know that actually, just to back up for just 2 seconds, it's important for people to realize that this is not the Board of Education budget that we are working on, that this is actually the superintendent's proposed budget. That as the way that that the cycle works for us is that Susan and the staff have been working on putting together this budget really since October, November. And then presenting it to us in January, and it becomes the board budget on or before February 28th, where by town charter it goes to the town council for their look over, and then it goes actually to the RTM, and I believe that gets voted on in sometime maybe the beginning of May, end of April. I never know those times, but that's what it is. But so what the budget is doing is that the board has come up with strong recommendations that we've actually voted on in terms of effective class sizes. We continue to sort of use the skills that we offered our teachers through the Teachers in College reading program. And from our math instruction, we're still continue to look at, and I believe this next generation science is actually a mandate that has come through us through the state of Connecticut. And that what makes Groton very unique in this area is that we have a IB, or a baccalaureate campus program, where at Fitch High School we do have the IB program, and with the middle school we're doing the middle years program. And I think Susan will be talking more about that in her part of the presentation, but we're also going to be looking, and we're also not looking, but we're developing our career program and pathway, which is also an IB program. So lots happening in that campus, which was why the Board of Education was so strongly in favor of having our high school and our middle school in that campus, to let that fluid of the IB program go.
And you'll notice our updated photographs of this day and time that we're going through, which is the hybrid and remote learning. So you see our kids in masks and shields, and it's not like it was, you know, in the past, but they're making do and doing the best they can. That one is cute.
Yeah. So also, as continued, as we know, in the fall, we are going to be opening 2 new elementary schools that are, which then puts our elementary schools down to 5 elementary schools, and all 5 of them will be magnet programs. And the names of the new elementary school is the Thames River Magnet Elementary School, and then there's the Mystic River Magnet School, which is on the old Cutler Middle School site. No time like the present, we have, Groton has had a very strong initiative around technology and the one-to-one computer program, and we're going to continue to sort of, this budget is going to continue to sort of address the infrastructure needs of having the technology. And I've said that, and also many of us don't know, but we do offer transitional work experiences for 18 to 22-year-old, and we're going to continue to maintain that. We have one of our other programs is the Treehouse Child Care Program, which is our before and after school. And Susan, what are the different elementary schools? Where are they located, the Treehouse?
So currently we have a program at SB Butler and NEA. We also have a program at Charles Barnum and Catherine Kolnowski.
And this
but all schools, I want to make a statement that all students in all of our schools have the opportunity to go to this program, and we just use the transportation of the buses to get them to the before and or after school. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan, for the clarification. And also this budget continues to support our relationship with the town of Groton, to have a school resource officer at the Fitch High School and also at the Groton Middle School.
So I want to orient you to the proposed budget and let you know that Dr. Michael Grenier was one of his last parting gifts to us was to make sure we were shipshape and ready with this budget. So we really appreciated that. We got an early start to this, and the central office directors worked together with our building administrators to really see this to fruition. So I want to do kind of a walkthrough of what we call the budget object codes, the 100s to the 800s. All school budgets are created this way. And I actually did a little footnoting because the board had recommended that we really be able to talk to you about where these increases and decreases are coming from. So we worked on that, and below the budget portion is the footnotes that I'll kind of review with you and which categories they are. So most budgets, and you're going to see a graph that really supports this, are made with the intention of what do we give our students? What's the most important thing that we give our students? And the most important thing is their teachers, administrators, support staff. So all budgets tend to have most of the funding going towards staff and salaries and also benefits. So you can see that close to $60,000 is going out of our budget, is going to the salary and the benefits. Most of our contracts, especially with the teachers, which is our largest talent pool of folks, has had a 2% increase. And I would say that in addition, teachers have steps. So when we first roll out of this, our teachers' contract looked like they were about 3.1% increase. You see the 2.0 increase under salaries because there's the contracts that we have to pay, of course, but they're also offset by some efficiencies due to the consolidation of elementary schools. So we're going from the 3 elementary schools, Claude Chester, SB Butler, and Mary Morrison, to our new Thames River Magnet and Mystic River Magnet. So with that, for instance, we have 1 less principal. So, and there are other folks too, other efficiencies that we have in more detail for the board to look at with a paper that looks at the payroll. So in the benefits, it's actually down. And the reason it's down is we really took a close look at the anticipated increased cost, which were about 7%, but we were able to offset it by reducing health insurance reserve. So using some of that health insurance reserve, that helped us to get that budget down a little bit. Under purchase services, which is the 300s, we had an increase in cost of services not provided by outside experts to support the district needs. So we had lower, so we had the increase in the cost of those services. And then for the 400s, we have the property services, and we see a lower experience in that, like less snow removal. The weather's been kind of good to us lately, and I'm knocking on wood, so I don't have to call a snow day or another remote day. So I would say that lower experience and more in-house services with purchased equipment. So we recently got a snow skid that helps us to remove snow. And I think we've used it once, but we've been able to make some purchases so we can do that work ourselves. And then when we come to the actual transportation, insurance, communication, and tuition, the 500, it's a big bundle, that particular category. And we, one of the biggest things in a school budget is also bus transportation. So we had received an MSAP grant for the magnet schools when we had both Westside and Cutler as magnet schools. It was a federal grant, and it supported us with paying for 4 of our buses. So with the new Groton Middle School coming together, there was not a need for the magnet buses, but we still had to pay for the buses that we were using for other things. So we actually had that price, that amount of money to keep it sustainable. So we had to take that on in the operation budget. And then the 600s are supplies, and it's everything from crayons and journals and textbooks and software and all kinds of things that we use. And this year was interesting because of the hybrid and remote learning. We wanted toolkits for kids when they were in the school. We wanted toolkits that could be sent home. We added extra software to help support the remote learning. And with all of that, there was some increase in costs. Some costs were taken care of by those special grants for COVID-19 and the CARES Act. But there were some that we had to pay for ourselves, which were the usual software costs, and then some that we added. So the other additional thing besides the needs in, the schools for their site budgets and for our actual supplies is the cost of electricity. So we do have new buildings, they're larger. They will cost more money probably to light up. But in addition, we still have responsibility for the 3 older buildings. So until the town takes that over, we'll have to continue those costs. So we made sure that there was money in the budget for that. And then the 700s is equipment, and that's a very large number, the 52.2%. But when you look at the overall amount of the budget, which is proposed to be 138,000, it's up 47,000. And the reason it's up is just what Kim had said in the beginning. We have IT infrastructure that we have to really stay on top of so that, you know, we can have all the Chromebooks and the iPads and all the wonderful bells and whistle of equipment. But unless we sustain and keep enhancing our IT infrastructure, that won't mean a thing if we can't log in and stay connected. So that is a large percentage, not such a large amount in the essence of an entire budget that's, you know, $78 million. So, so that was it for the equipment. And then 800 is dues and fees. It's $88,000 category, and it's up by about $14,000. And that is for our requirements for MYP and careers program, which we're working on. So that's our overall walkthrough of this budget. And we can go back to this if people have questions. But last year we presented a 0% increase budget at $77,438,090. This year we're asking for $829,991 more at $78,268,081, which is a 1.1. So when we first came out of the gates, because of the salaries and benefits increase, we were looking at 3.1, but really by looking at our benefits and offsetting some of the reductions in health insurance reserve, we were able to bring it down. And also going through the budget carefully, we were able to bring it down to a 1.1% increase from last year. I love pictures and charts. So this is what I was saying. When you think about a little more than 3/4 of our budget is salary and benefits, a little less than 1/4 is all those other things. So you have non-contractual expenses, you have utilities and other, you have transportation, you have tuition and contracted services that make up the rest of the budget. And as you can see, I had said almost $60 million is in salary and benefits. And the tuition and contracted services is $6.5 million. Transportation is $5.5 million. Utilities are $3 million, and non-contractual are $3 million. And that's what makes up the whole pie. I thought it would be good to take a little history journey. I know how Liz Porter loves history and History Day. So when we look at from 2011-12 school year, where there was a 0% and the following year a 0% increase. And then Mike came, I think, in between 2013 and 14. And there were some, I think, special education costs that needed to be dealt with. And then in 2015 or 14-15, I arrived with him in the summer, and we did see another increase of 1.95%. And then in 2015-16, another 2.17. So those were really the largest percent increases that we had seen. We actually had a downturn in 16-17 of 34% and another 0. But when you look at it all in all, you see a 10-year average of 0.64%, so less than 1%. And so I think that this page shows you a history of efficiencies in our budget. And, you know, there we could think about other things. The Groton 2020 was about diversity, you know, equity, excellence, and efficiency. And some of the grants that we have sought have also taken care of some of our initiatives in addition. And then I thought bringing you to the per pupil spending page would be important too, because in that 2011-12 year, Groton's per pupil spending was $14,000 per student, 366. The Connecticut average was 14,135. So we were actually above the state average back in those days. We continued the next year to be above by $104.20. But as you look at the downward trend or the trend in the variance that we were, below the average and continued to be below the average. And the last time we were able to gather the data in 2020, we were $1,287.83 per pupil below the average. So, I would say that that's also a sign, I think, of some efficiencies. Now, every school budget has contributors. And so when you look at the whole school budget, which the proposal is for that 78 million, you can see that the town is responsible for about 61.9%. That's that dark blue section that you're looking at, which is really, the majority of the budget. But you can also see that there are grants that come directly to the town to support our school budget. So one of those grants, and those are the revenues. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the revenues that the town receives through federal dollars, state dollars to support the school budget. So we have ECS and education cost sharing, which has kind of remained stable since about 2015. And that's at the tune of $24,969,249, or 31.9, close to 32%. So that's the largest revenue source that we have. Then you have other state funds at a 0.4%. You have federal impact aid, and we're one of the towns and cities in the state that probably does best there because we have the largest number of military students, military children, and children who live or reside on federal lands or their parents work on federal property. So that's at $3,283,678, or about 4.2%. And then there's the special ed excess cost, which also goes directly to the town. And when we've paid in excess of what the average is for students who are either outplaced or have significant challenges, then we receive a portion of that money back. And then there's Medicaid, which we really are very careful with some of our service providers to make sure that we're marking those dollars that are spent. And then other sources at $83,277. So you can see that you have about close to $30 million from revenue. You've got close to 62% from the town, from the taxpayers, and that's what makes up the complete picture, or the complete part of the budget for the schools. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about grants. We have what we call categorical grants. Those are annual grants, and those really come from state and federal monies, and they come to the schools. And they come to the schools for very specific purposes. So we actually, for each of these grants, we have to write our own plan of how we're going to spend the money. And it really goes along with what those funds are specifically for. So you have your title grants, or the ESEA grants, ESSA grants, and those are specifically for the work that we do in some of our title schools. They also are for professional development, for EL and bilingual education, or for English learners, English language learners, and those really are specific to those needs. So there's tutors, and there's social workers, and really support systems for those schools. And there is some funding for the district as well. The Carl Perkins is a vocational education monies that really go right to the high school for their careers pathway programs. School readiness is our early childhood, and we really just serve as the fiduciary. So we receive the funds, and Children First Groton and our early childhood folks work together to make sure that we have extra slots in some of those preschools in the town and city to support our students, who will be our students in Groton, in those private preschools. We have our own preschools, but this is meant for the additional spots in the town and city. And then there's IDEA, which is the Federal Special Education Grant, and that affords a lot of things that we need in special education, including some of our paraprofessionals and resources, supplies. So we use, that's a $1,164,716 grant. Bilingual, because we have 25 or more students in a couple of our schools, we get some money to help support those children. And then we have DODIA, or DOD Supplemental Impact Grant, which comes to us each year. We're not always so sure what they're going to give us. I think the estimate is about $260,000. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, mostly a little more. And we've really earmarked that. Mike and I, from the time we got here and working with this board, we really earmarked that for technology. And I have to say, because we had a technology plan that sought to have one-to-one initiative in the high school and now in the middle school, it really prepared us. So when we had to go to full remote learning and supplemental learning back in the spring, we were able to do so because we were prepared. And then we were able to get some additional technology and hotspots also through the CARES Act so that we would be more than ready. And then we've been an alliance district for several years, which has helped us maintain our ECS cost. But I would say that this year, the anticipation is to have $300,000. Last year, we had $600,000. We're not sure about next year. So those are categorical grants. Competitive grants are grants that we seek out. And we've had really great success with DODIA, which is Department of Defense Education Activity grants. You see two of those remaining, one in math and one in STEM. We completed the literacy grant last year, which really afforded us to be project school with Teachers College Readers and Writers Workshop. In addition, we have a federal grant, a Magnet School Assistance program, which is MSAP, we call it. And that's what's really driven the work in the middle school to become MYP. And not only middle school, but 6 through 8 through this grant, but we were able to also do 9 and 10 as well in the high school. And remember that Westside was a STEM school and Cutler was arts and humanities. So together, when we brought them together, they've become a STEAM school. And they have so many opportunities and courses for our middle schoolers to take. Pathways that actually will lead to high school career pathways. So one of the things I have to say about competitive grants is that you write them for an intended purpose, for an intended initiative. You can't be writing them or using those funds for things that would otherwise have been operation cost. So we always say in the grant world, thou shalt not supplant. So you can't use a grant to pay for those things that the school budget should pay for. You have to be really careful with that. And then I would say that this year, because of coronavirus, we were able to get a CARES Act ESSER grant at $686,882 and a Corona Relief Fund, which was $1,227,291. I would have to say the Corona Relief Fund really helped us with additional staffing that we needed to support this world we're living in now with remote and hybrid learning and many other things. And during the board workshop, I will delineate some of that and go through that with you. All in all, though, our total grants is at the tune of $6,364,978 as of FY21. We contemplated putting a FY22, but the competitive grants we know will be the same. as they were this year. But the categorical grants, we don't have those numbers yet, but we will be getting them. And Kim, you can wrap us up here.
I always find it's better to wrap up things when you take yourself off of mute. So I have done that. One of the things that this board has done for several years is making sure that we listen and we hear the mission statement, which is in its simplicity is teaching and learning. And that we have the goals of provide dynamic, rigorous curriculum, ensure effective and engaging instruction, and embrace excellent learning environment. And one of the things that the board is really kind of fine tuning and looking at is really making sure that we have at our core a look at sort of our diversity and our inclusion and our equity. I'm sure many of us know that was that our school.
I was like, I wish we could double Zoom, and then I was like, oh, I'll just call her.
If everybody could put themselves on mute, that would be helpful.
We are working on this belief statement, which was to cultivate an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And so, as what Susan has been able to produce or show, sort of what the board is looking at and thinking about. I think that all the budget highlights actually kind of hit every single one of them, and that is something that I'm pretty proud of the board for doing. So Susan, thank you very much for leading us in that presentation, your first one of many to come.
Would you like me to stop sharing so you can?
I think I would. Thank you. Great. So now that we have done, it's good to see everyone's faces, even though it's like a 2x2 square. I've now ended the presentation of our budget, and now we are opening up for public comment. I know that our Mark Russell, not our Mark Russell, but the Mark Russell, has placed in the chat is that if you would just put your name in there if you would like to talk, so that we can get you recognized. But I'm just going to sort of once again orient ourselves to sort of what we should be expecting for the comments of citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments, and that could be done through email. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to the to our Groton and to our Groton budget. And board members will only ask questions in order to clarify a person's presentation, and that we are not going to be speaking during this time period. So once again, this is our chance of being able to hear from others. What does our town feel is important, and to make sure that we have that in our budget. So it is now your turn. So if there's anyone who is knowing, I know that there was someone who reached out to me earlier in the weekend, and Connie, Connie, if you would love to start us off, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Hope you can hear me.
I can, Connie. Thank you.
Great. Well, good evening, and thank you for scheduling this public hearing. I have a request during these COVID times to please look at budgeting for HEPA filtration and CO2 monitors in the classroom and offices for proper ventilation controls. Students will most likely still need layers of protection while they wait for their pediatric vaccines to be approved. Yesterday, on January 18th, the Biden administration nominated Cindy Martin for Deputy Secretary of Education. As San Diego Superintendent, she has worked with atmospheric chemist Kimberly Prather and acknowledged that COVID is airborne and put in measures to clean the air in schools. Cindy Martin's policy is to get at least 6 air exchanges per hour, and if not possible, then HEPA filtering systems for rooms where they cannot. She also measures aerosols and CO2s in every classroom to check air quality. Schools more than likely have to make similar changes for safe schools once the new admin gets put into place. It may be useful for the Groton Board of Ed to have a committee to look into what is needed for the buildings and possibly make needed changes to the 2 new buildings under construction. The Groton district hired engineers Fuss and O'Neill before the school district started to commission the school's HVAC. But so far, that report has not been made public. Dr. Grainer had emailed me back with the Board of Ed and Susan Austin CC'd on November 23rd and stated it would be posted on the district's website, and that has not happened. Since the public does not know the air quality, if MERV filters were able to be added, or if work is needed on schools to bring them up to ASHRAE guidelines during the pandemic, I'm asking for further mitigations to be purchased for the safety of students and staff without knowing which ventilation measures have already taken place. The reason for CO2 monitors in the classroom is due to SARS-CoV-2 being transmitted through the air. And the higher CO2 level, the more air we are sharing. These monitors will help reduce risk of infection so that teachers and admin will know when to open a window if the window's open, or turn up the HVAC system for more air exchanges. Ideally, when a CO2 monitor shows 800 ppm, then you know 1% of the air you're breathing has already been breathed by someone in the space. Any higher ppm, then the percent of shared air goes up. The 1918 fresh air movement has already taught us that ventilation was key. It's time for Groton to address ventilation within our schools and add more engineering mitigation efforts for solution against the virus. Studies show poor air quality has an effect on learning and increased absences. Ventilation improvements have the added benefit of helping with allergens and air pollution within classrooms. If improvements are made now, the Groton will be ahead of most schools and ready for the next pandemic. Ben Franklin said it best, I am persuaded that no common air from without is so unwholesome as the air within a closed room that has not often been breathed and not changed. And I'm just going to show you, this is my little CO2 monitor, and household ventilation's, it's not going to be 800 parts per million unless I open up my window. And then you breathe on it and it's immediately going to go up. And so this is what some restaurants are installing so that their customers know that they're in safe ventilated spaces. Foreign countries are using it more often. So ideally this would be in the classroom on the wall so that everybody could see the air inside the room and see if it's clean air that they're breathing. But thank you again for letting me speak tonight, and I appreciate all you've been doing this year.
So Connie, you looked like you had something written. So if you could throw that into an email. So Joan Johnson is the person who would collect that.
No problem.
So it's jjohnson at groton.k12.ct.us. I probably put one too many dots in there. But once again, Connie, thank you very much. And I will make sure that Susan and Mr. Kilpatrick look at why that information wasn't put, the Foster O'Neill, why that wasn't put on the website. Unfortunately, no excuses. So we'll see if we can get that up. That would be great. Thank you, Connie. Is there anyone else that is interested in talking to the board about upcoming budget season? I am sorry, my cat is trying to jump on my lap and she's got very sharp claws. I'm sorry, I'm not making faces at the public. Miss Joan, are you hearing any from anyone?
No.
Board, I'm just going to give people a couple more seconds to. So board, I believe that we have heard our comments to us from the public. The not dilemma, but the challenge that we're in is that this actually public hearing goes until 7 o'clock and our next meeting is not scheduled to 7. And by FOI rules, we really need to start the budget workshop at 7 o'clock. That's the problem with kind of setting our times. I am actually wondering if specifically, since we have so many people here, whether there's parts of the presentation that the board would like us to kind of have a closer look at or closer conversation about. I know that we also had things that were given to us in our budget book that maybe we could actually kind of put up, and that is all part of sort of a public hearing and about the presentation of the budget. That would be my recommendation instead of us closing down and then coming back in 20 minutes, but that's up to, I will go to the will of the board. Rita.
I have quite a few different questions about what was sent to us, but my first question would be about the coronavirus grants and how they were used. If we could have a detailed explanation sometime in the future, and whether or not we had provided, I believe there is some type of HEPA filters in our schools. What was done, and did we use the grant money for those purposes? So it would be nice to have an explanation, exactly how we spent the money, the funds, you know, rather than just listing them. I looked through the budget. I couldn't find it any other place. Has anybody else found it?
No, we sent that out. I think that went out with the board packet.
Today?
No, this was last week when we had, we sent out the budget review, which was the yellow section. We sent out the white.
Yeah, I have that.
With the enrollment from
right
room. And we sent out what was under the green tab, which was the FTEs. And I do believe that we had the explanation that we were going to show you tonight, Ken, that was specifically around the details in the CARES and Corona relief. I'm just looking to see if where that was.
That's on page 1-5 in the yellow section.
So underneath the
yellow
yellow tab it was, yeah.
And that shows what we did for ventilation in our schools too?
No.
No, that would be a Sam question.
Right. It is a Sam question.
I don't know, that might, you know, if you'd like us to start with, we really wanted to take the time during the board workshop to go over and review those items that we shared with you last week and, you know, in detail, to do it kind of slide by slide. We also did an update on looking at the budget workshops because we pushed off the special ed component to next week so that we could get through all of those things that were recommended last week from the board that they wanted. So we could certainly start that with the yellow section if you wanted to.
Is there anything of the budget presentation that was done so far that would be helpful for the board to go over tonight? Kind of would like to kind of keep it to tonight.
So I think you'll see some of the things that were in the yellow because that's how we made the decision to add them to the presentation tonight. So you're going to see some of those anyway.
I think it might be helpful if we could post for our constituents how the grant money was spent. And that was on 1-5. I think that would be personally, I think that would be important for us just to go over for the public to see this is the money we got, this is the money, this is how it was spent. That's just my opinion.
What, I'm just, under the coronavirus relief grant, where it talks how we spent the money,
Yep.
do we want to have lots more than that?
So
Many HEPAs we used, you know, I mean, sure, but
Ken,
it's
you
under,
could show that,
it's
right?
in the yellow. And it's 1-5.
Yeah. Do you want me to put 1-5 up?
That would be good.
We've already got it, yeah.
But we can show it to the public since they're on here. They can kind of see it. And since that question was raised or that comment was made tonight, I just would need to have Sam weigh in on that.
Okay. I am going to share that section. Let's see. This yellow section. All right. This is the yellow section. I'll go down to the coronavirus grants. Did you want me to go through this, Susan, or?
Sure. Go right ahead.
So we got two grants in regards to corona relief. One was the CARES Act, also called the Elementary and Secondary School Relief, what they call the ESSER. I think it's emergency relief. And so the majority of that we put towards personnel, the additional teaching personnel that we needed, and the additional substitutes that we needed. That was the biggest portion. We also got the help of some social workers and community coordinators to help students, and then additional custodians to one per building to help with keeping up with all the cleaning that we're doing. Also with the CARES, there was funds put aside for food service to help with the support of the meal distribution that they did over the spring and throughout this past year. The school supplies that Susan had mentioned before that to use at home, as well as in the schools, and some document cameras to help the teachers with their online remote learning. So that's how so CARES Act goes until September of 22 to spend. So that's how we intend to spend $686,882. So we're in the process of that at this point.
And I attended a CAPS meeting where they were telling us that we should be expecting to receive double that amount of money in CARES Act Part 2. So I'm not sure when that's coming in, but I know that that goes until 2023.
I think you're right. The other grant that we received was called the Corona Relief Fund. This one had to be spent by 12/31/20, between March and 12/31/20. So this one is actually complete. Once again, the majority of this was put towards additional personnel, substitutes, paraprofessionals, teaching personnel to help with the hybrid model, tutors to help the students, once again, social workers, support, technology support, and community coordinators, very much the same as above, part-time custodians at each of the buildings. And then a big amount here was we had to update a lot of the curriculum instruction to support the hybrid learning model. That was 154 of that amount. So $1 million of the 1.2 million for Corona Relief Fund was put towards personnel. The rest of the funds were used to obtain PPE, which is the personal protective equipment, such as masks and shields, gloves, gowns, the desk shields that we saw pictures of earlier. Hand sanitizer and dispensers, and right there, the HVAC reconditioning, that was the amount that was budgeted to pay Fuss and O'Neill for the work, the recommissioning work that they did. So the total for that grant was $1,227,291.
And that grant was really very specific to personnel and PPE and the things that we needed due to the Corona-19 virus.
That's right. No technology was allowed in this particular grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I actually think that that's nice. It kind of shows sort of what we have or have not done. I am not, this is not the time for us to kind of think with Sam out loud about what we have done or not have done. If it's supposed to be on the website in terms of what Foster O'Neill has kind of found we need to do that, and then maybe we can have larger conversation about what is needed or not needed when we get to Sam's portion of the budget in terms of the HEPA filters and whatever.
You might want to scroll to page 1.
So Susan, so we are at 552, 553. And so what I'm going to suggest is that we close down the public portion of the public meeting, what is this called? The public hearing for the budget. And that we give Board of Ed about 5 minutes to kind of do whatever they need to do, dance, sing, clap their hands. And then we'll come back for our 7 o'clock budget session. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So I motion for adjournment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yay. Aye.
So I'll see you guys in maybe 8 minutes. But we're missing Susan. I'm sure she'll be here momentarily.
Kim, where are we starting in our book?
I think that Susan and Ken have the plan, so I'm going to sort of defer to them.
Okay. Can I ask a question? What we had received in the mail from the projections from Malone and McBroom. Are we going over these tonight? We had talked about it the week before.
Once again, I'm not quite sure what we're going to be able to get to tonight. But my guess is that if we've gotten them, that probably has something to do about that we're going to talk about them. So those are,
Okay.
Rita, I'm going to ask that you save those questions for when Susan
Okay.
gets here. Once again, because it's more or less her budget right at the present moment, I'm allowing her to kind of take lead about how we kind of go through it.
Okay.
So Lee, they're leading in the first quarter, by the way, in case you wanted to know.
Who is?
UConn. They're in the lead.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much.
By a lot.
Are you talking about the basketball game?
Yes.
This is
It's
the women.
it's yeah. The women it's 30. Butler is 15.
Yeah, I think we're winning.
Yeah.
As usual.
I love it.
I do too.
It's a close one.
First time ever that there have been no seniors, ever.
I know.
No
I heard that too.
Senior. And I think 5 or 6 freshmen.
It's all freshmen and sophomores. I think there's 2
No,
juniors.
we've got
and
a
that's
couple
it.
of juniors. We've got a couple, but no seniors.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm saying. This team.
It's just amazing.
Can I ask a question, Kim, about the calendar? Are
Sure.
we doing something different? It looks like today's meeting is the 19th, and then there isn't another budget work session till Monday, February 1st. I thought we had some in between.
Well,
We're going to review that with you today.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a
Thank you.
revision, so we'll plan on doing that. I just talked to Ken.
So Susan, there was I'm wondering if it would be helpful if you kind of orient the board to what you and Ken hope to sort of get accomplished with us tonight.
Okay.
Rita was specifically asking not only about the schedule, but also about the projections that came from Malone and McBroom.
We thought that we would like to bring you through the tabs that we filled up for you last week. So we'll start with the yellow section. A lot of that may seem repetitive. I think we can do it pretty quickly because I used a lot of those charts and graphs in this presentation. Because I felt like the charts told the story better than just the numbers.
Yep.
And then we thought we would move to the white section, which is the enrollment by Malone and McBroom. And he has a really great little slideshow that I'm hoping to put up on our website to showcase to our community. So I wanted to review that with you. And then we have the green section, which is your payroll reconciliation. And actually, Rita, your recommendation to do it landscape was ideal. I felt like when I saw it that way, it just made sense. So we're going to show that to everybody and show them how that works. Yep. And then we'll finalize and wrap up with the revised budget schedule and talk to you about, we have 4 more workshop dates and we think that we can get through everything, you know, easily. So of course I say that. Sometimes it takes more time, sometimes it takes less time, so.
All right, you want me to go ahead and put the yellow section up, Susan?
We all have it. Don't we all have the yellow section?
Rita,
Yeah.
we have several people from the public who are watching. And so we are going to, Rita, there is a tab. I don't know if you have it on your iPad, but once the screen share is going in, you can move that to the side if you want to see people's faces. But I feel pretty strongly that if there are people from the public who are watching,
yeah, that's great.
Okay. As Susan mentioned, a lot of this is going to be repetitive because we put this in the presentation. But this is the section that 1-1 through 1-6 that should have gone into your yellow section.
Yep.
So it started with our district mission and goals. The next section down was this section that showed the salary and benefits at 76%, has this nice pie chart. Yeah, so we went over this on in the presentation. I'm just going to go along unless someone tells me to stop. This is the revenue to support. So that's that pie chart that all of a sudden the town number isn't showing up, but I'll fix that. But it's showing that approximately 62% of the budget is paid for by the town, where the other 38% is from other sources, ECS being the biggest piece. And just a note, we put this on the past couple of years on the very bottom. It kind of shows of the property tax that's collected, what percentage of that is to support the Board of Ed budget. And so it looks like it's hovering somewhere around 51%. And that's pretty, I did a survey of other districts, and that's pretty consistent with a lot of districts.
That's helpful, Ken. Thank you.
This is the grants revenues. A little bit more information. It kind of gives you more of an idea of what exactly we're paying for with these particular grants, and gives us a 20 versus 21. So this is a little bit more information than what was in the presentation. But this FY21 actual is the exact same numbers that we just shared.
And we just don't have the FY22 yet.
Yeah. FY22 for the categorical grants won't be available for some time, but we do have them for the competitive grants because we already know what those are. And the Corona Relief Fund, so there's that $6.3 million that Susan had pointed out during the presentation. We looked at this one already. This is the Corona Relief and how we spent these funds. Or I should say how we spent the CRF and the CARES Act. We're still in the process, but that is how we intend to spend those funds. And then this is the budget history, which we also put in there. So over the 10-year average of less than 2/3% increase per year. And then the expenditure per pupil, which shows that we're behind the Connecticut average. But you know, I think it's a pretty our amounts here per pupil. You know, it is an increase, but it's a steady increase, and it's not. I think it shows that we're being efficient, and we're looking at this thing versus just letting it get out of hand.
Right.
So that's I like that one. So that's what should be in your yellow section, 1-1 through 1-6. Any questions on that one? All right.
And last week, we really focused on the object code summary and, in more detail with also the notation. And you had recommended that when we start marching through the function code, we did start with the elementary, but we looked at the narrative box and also the changes. So I just wanted to have a discussion if we look to make sure that all those sections that either increased or decreased have something like that. Would that suffice as footnotes? Because honestly, I think the changes that we're looking at from one year to the next is kind of what you were recommending in a footnote. So I'm just going to pose that question and you all can let me know what you think about that.
Hey, Kim,
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's just one of these little things. It's a small rock in the shoe. It doesn't make
Please.
much of a difference. But I find that whenever there's a history, say a budget history or an expenditure history that goes year to year to year, and then there's an average taken for the period. In this case, for example, the budget history, it says the 10-year average is 0.64. In other words, the average annual increase would be 0.64. The actual, and I think that's taken by, that's derived from just sort of adding up the percentage increases or decreases and finding the average, right? The more accurate one is the one that's used for, say, compound interest, if you will. So what you would do in this case, you've got from fiscal year 2011, 2012 down to 2020, 21, that's 9 steps. What you do is you divide the 77,438 figure by the earlier figure, and this is going to sound technical, it's not, it's just math. And you take, in this case, the 9th root, subtract 1, multiply by 100, that's your average percentage. In this case, instead of it being 0.64%, it's 0.71%. If you toss in the proposed budget, that brings the average annual increase to 0.75%, 3/4 of a point. And I know that sounds crazy and picayune, but it sometimes does make a difference. It's just one of, like I said, it's a small rock in my shoe. I see it all the time. That's the actual way to calculate the average increase. Doesn't seem to be a big deal, but there's never a good time to bring that up. I just sort of throw that one out there.
Thank you, Dean.
Sure, sorry. I know it's small.
We could calculate both ways and put them on the sheet, just to be clear.
There's one more significant point I'd like to make, and that is when you apply an average. In other words, this is to sort of get a picture of the data, to sort of get things down to a simpler image. What the value of the average annual increase is dependent on just exactly how much variation you have. So, for example, if you were to graph whatever figure you're looking at, if you were to graph the history and then draw the straight line as though, for example, you actually had the 0.7% annual increase, that would be a straight line. You'll find regions above and regions below. And what, for example, taxpayers have said is you can draw the straight lines you want. There were years when the rate was high, then came down. So your average makes it look like everything's hunky-dory. In fact, there's a whole Mount Everest in there where, there was real money that was spent, taxed, or whatever those figures are. So the average annual figure is only as good as the how variant those numbers are from year to year. Because you can draw a straight line through anything. Anyway, that's my venting. Thank you.
Right. No, Dean, and I appreciate that. And I always actually appreciate a different perspective. So thank you. I think the purpose of this was just to kind of show the town that when we look at our increases for many, many, many years, we've had 0 or less than 0. That large bump up, and Dean, I think you were actually a town councilor with that, was when we realized that our health insurance was sort of bankrupt and we needed to put 1.4 million on that to make us whole in that. And that was sort of, I can remember Deb Parazotti kind of looking at us going, I'm going to let you have this time. But after
There were
that,
questions.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's the purpose of this, is to kind of show that we've been pretty good as a budget, as a budgetary body, with how much we tax our town.
All I'm saying is that I understand the purpose of this, but just, it's always qualified by just exactly how wild the variations are.
Yep. All right, moving on.
All right, and now section, the white section. Let's see.
3.1.
Yes, 3-1 through 3-5. These should be in your white section, and this is enrollment.
And I just want to kind of make a statement out loud that this year has been such an anomaly. You can kind of see at the bottom of the chart, we're down 246 students in that second column from the left. And I think it's just with this coronavirus, parents have been very hesitant to send kids to school across the state, nation. A lot of parents are holding on to their kindergartners, preschoolers, and they aren't getting an education this year, or they're getting a homeschooling without telling the schools. So we don't know what's going to happen for next year. It's, you know, I wish I had a crystal ball, but my thinking is that we probably will receive more kindergartners and hopefully preschoolers than we've ever had. So, but then we have to think about what does the rest of the enrollment look like. So they did take into consideration the kids who are out in the magnet schools who, you know, may, based on the history, come back to us. And they tried to use some averaging to figure out, especially in the lower grades in the preschool and the kindergarten, the averages of what was happening in the past. But remember that this, even though I feel like the numbers that Malone and McBroom came up with are a little closer to the reality, I'm not saying they're anywhere near what we can expect October 1st when our numbers really come through. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, Susan, could you help clarify? So the decrease in the 246, these are students who are not receiving any services, who live in the town but are not receiving any school services?
No, it's just saying that we have a decrease of 246 kids from the year before.
Right.
And we don't know who,
Right.
you know, why.
Okay, because my question, I think I finally know what my question is, Susan. So, is there a possibility that some of these students are all virtual, or are they counted in a different way?
No, our virtual remote kids that we know about and are enrolled are our kids.
Okay.
And they're counted for.
So there's
We know who the homeschool kids are who signed the piece of paper, but we don't know the families that decided to homeschool without telling the school district or just kept them home.
Okay. Okay.
So hopefully we find out who they are. But I think we have to be ready in those primary grades to have an increased enrollment because of that decrease. I'll let you go on, Ken. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. No, so I'll just orient you to this report, and then we can look at the Malone and McBroom maybe in more detail. But this report, this first page is just a history, goes out to FY14, and it kind of shows you the difference, different grade levels. This next page, page 3-2, this is what's actually happening in our schools right now this year. And I'm sorry, this is just the elementary schools this year. So I wanted to clarify that this 3-2 is this year elementary. 3-3 is the projection for next year for just the elementary. It looks a little different because we're trying to compare 6 schools against 5 schools, and it creates something funky, and so that's why we presented it this way. But we can change it up if need be. These numbers, these projected enrollment numbers, come directly from the Malone and McBroom study. So we can talk about that one when we look at that. Actually, there's a little footnote here that says based on the enrollment projection from Malone and McBroom. We haven't accounted for any of the magnet student lottery movement that may happen. And then this page 3
Kim, before we get off that page, Kim, I had a few questions about that page. Besides the Malone and McBroom report, my question is when I look at Northeast Academy for grades 2 and grades 3 with 3 FTEs, the enrollment is extremely high and way above what it should be for those grades. And when I look over what you have projected at Thames River Magnet and Mystic River Magnet, where you have 4 teachers, now even if they received, let's say in 2nd grade at Mystic River Magnet School, 17 additional transferred in students from some other part of our district, and they had 4 teachers, their class sizes would be much smaller than Northeast Academy and even Charles Barnum's. So I'm wondering if we're going to be transferring teachers over, does Northeast Academy have the room for additional classrooms? Since we have all these, they don't.
We're going to try to fit the Transition K program over, but Ryan and I have actually talked about that, Rita. It is a concern. In order to keep Northeast Academy as a magnet, that means that you have to be magnetized in receiving kids, but they really are limited with the numbers that they can take in. Because of the kind of explosion that we've seen, just even recently this year. And I don't know if it's with new construction that has happened, but we do see this increase that is kind of sudden in that 1st and 2nd grade, or 2nd and 3rd grade. We're always very careful with both Northeast and Catherine Kolnowski not to fill up the kindergarten seats to the maximum capacity, because they go from 4 FTEs in K and 1 drop down to 3. So
right.
It is a dilemma, and we're going to have to really study it. One of the things we've talked about in the 4-tier schools, which is the Thames River Magnet and the Mystic River Magnet, is that perhaps you could shift one of your FTEs to help support the kindergarten. If you look at the Thames River, kindergarten is already at 104. So
right.
Those would be really large kindergarten classes, too large.
Yes.
So there might have to be some shifting. I think we're going to do a survey before we do the lottery. So we're going to survey our parents and give them information. Probably do some focus groups and information sessions so that they know where their parameters are. And I think this McBroom report will actually help for parents to understand. I'm going to go through that with you too. But I think that we're going to have to get at least that survey information back to see what people are thinking. Are they planning to stay where they are? Are there some
right.
Northeast Academy students who might, they might be in the hashtag area and would like to walk to school?
Right.
So I think gathering that information is going to be critical this year.
Right.
And
if we had and if we have too many FTEs, it would be possible, like if there were, because you have 4 in both of those 2 schools, and if we don't need all those teachers.
Well, the magic number is 604. And in order to get those grants paid, we have to have 604 sitting in the seat October 1. So we have to figure out a way to really fill those 2 schools.
Right. But even filling those 2 schools, the class sizes are very low.
Well, we have to gain more kids from the magnets.
Right. But it would be a lot. It'd be a lot of kids in each grade level. So that's why I'm just asking you. I mean, we're not guaranteed to have 4 FTEs in each grade level at those 2 schools, are we?
No,
I mean, if
we could possibly shift, like if 5th grade, for instance, only needs 3 FTEs, then maybe they give the 4th FTE to kindergarten. Or, we do have, actually in one of our schools, we have a 5th grade teacher who was a kindergarten teacher. So there could be possibilities of doing that, shifting.
Or we may not need them at all. I mean, that's a possibility too.
But I'm saying to you, Rita, in order to have
Yeah.
604 students at the recommended number that the board has said, which is like 20 to 22, 24, you really have to have all those classrooms filled with teachers and students.
Right.
That's not the Board of Ed, that's the State Department.
That's the
or
state, or
us.
they won't
No,
pay it.
that's the 604 is
Right.
the
604.
state. That's not the Board of Ed.
Right.
But she's talking about our class sizes recommended.
Yeah,
But they'd still be lower. Even if you had a lot of kids in each, bumped up in each one, lower than some of the other schools.
well, you see the total numbers. Mystic is a little closer to what we need, but Thames is about 100 away. So we really have to do a good job with this marketing of our magnet programs. And even, I've worked with Rebecca today about how do we reach out to students who crossed over the bridge and maybe want to come back.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, more advertising.
yeah, we have our work cut out for us for sure.
Yeah.
But you identified the problem that I was going to share with you, but you already identified. It is a concern for me.
Right. And Northeast is really, and maybe those people that live in the Bel Air, that hashtag will move over.
Mhm.
That's a possibility.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And then I'll just finish off this report. So page 3-4 just sums up all the elementary schools and puts in Groton Middle as well as Fitch High School to give us a total picture of all of the students in the district. And then the very last page, I think, is just our preferred class sizes.
Mhm.
So that's just wanted to finish off this report. Do we want to look at Malone McBroom report separate?
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Stop share on that one. Do you have that Malone and McBroom at your? I have it.
Yeah, I do. I'll share.
Okay. There it is. Yeah.
I'm looking for it on my
Yeah,
desktop.
that's what I was doing.
I don't know. Things like move around on me.
I know. Actually, I've got it now, Susan, if you want.
Okay,
to do
I'll
it.
stop sharing and let you share.
Okay. All right.
You guys play so nice. Thank you.
All right. Where is it? Did it work? It did.
No, but I see it right there on your screen. I think you just have to click on to the actual projection document.
Oh. So it didn't work. Okay, hold on. I'll get this. Here, press that. How's that?
There you
Yes.
go.
Okay, good.
Yay.
Yay. All right. So
I like this orientation in the beginning where it talks about, our 6 schools going down to 5, but don't forget, we also closed Pleasant Valley. So it was really 7 down to 5.
Mhm.
And the map, the map is actually still up on the website, so families can actually click on or put in their address and find out which school will be their neighborhood new districted school. So that I think is very helpful. And then these are the, in the adopted plan, these are the hashtagged areas that any new student will be going to one of the new schools. And anybody really within that hashtag has the opportunity to go to the school that they can walk to. So on Brandon G. Avenue, students could be phased into Thames, and they have about approximately 10 to 15 students that would be involved in that. And then the Bel Air neighborhood actually has about 50 students. So that would be, if some of those students decided to go to the Mystic River magnet, that would be really helpful for Northeast as well. And then assumptions, students reassigned based on the adopted elementary school plan that we've seen. There wouldn't be any change. You know, Mike was really adamant that he wanted the least disruption in this plan. So no changes really for Charles Barnum, Catherine Kolnowski, which I got to tell Zuba he needs to fix the spelling.
Yes.
Northeast Academy. And then current GPS students who live in a phased-in area can remain in their current school, or they can opt to go to the new school. And anybody new in the neighborhood who hasn't attended one of our schools will go to the new school from the hashtag.
Susan, I don't see on the west side the little lines in the pink. Are they there and I'm just missing them? Like you can see them in the Cutler phase-in, but I don't see it in the west side.
Can you move back to that and maybe
Can you see it?
bigger? So
Yeah, the pink.
so it's like the dark pink. So if you see, if you go down in between Catherine Kolnowski and West Side, it's, you can put your cursor there, Ken.
Oh, so that's that
pink
little
area.
area.
Yep. That's why it's only like 15 students.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right there. I see it. Yeah. It's,
Hmm.
oh my. Oh, too much. Too much.
Well, and we talked about in the lottery process, we might make one of the parameters that a younger sibling could attend the middle school if there was room and enrollment, or an older sibling, depending on the enrollment. But also if they were able to walk to the school. So that could impact some of the kids who live near Thames River or Mystic River. If they can walk to the school, then they could have a preferred lottery.
Okay.
Excuse me, just one second. Susan or Ken, if you're asking them to fix Catherine Kolnowski's spelling, could you ask them to change the names of the schools from
Yes,
Cutler to
West Side and Cutler. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that.
Because even on the signs outside the buildings, you know, the building sites,
Yeah.
I mean, it says West Side Elementary and Cutler
I
Elementary.
hate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Is Sam on this call? Maybe we'll have Sam talk to his committee.
Thank you.
All right. Were we done with this slide? I don't recall.
Well,
I still think they could make that a lot clearer about West Side, because if you go to the next page, there's actually more pink that's showing up with little lines.
yeah.
That doesn't show up on the one before. But
Well, I think that's why they did that zoom in on those phased in so you could really see it better, Rita, because on the larger
Okay.
map it doesn't show up as well. But I'll
Right.
ask. I'll see. If we go
yeah,
back,
and even like phase in into Cutler, they need to change all that.
I agree. So Ken, if we go back to that other slide that we were on.
This one.
Right. So the academy, the ABA, the resource teachers from Mary Morrison and Claude and SB Butler have been reassigned to their appropriate school. We worked really closely with Zuba to make sure he knew the names, and we're placing the kids where they needed to go. So we have those numbers accurately displayed in the enrollment. And then we talked to Miranda and Chapman, and she says there's really no major changes she sees to Navy housing next year. I think that a lot of the orders have been kind of on hold. So I kind of said, when is the shoe going to drop and when are people going to start moving, back and forth? So there have been some moves. I know Seth is on this call, and he knows in his school and Mary Morrison, they're used to moving in and out. So numbers look different in October than November, December, January. Their numbers are constantly fluctuating.
Mhm.
And then, so we've actually kind of updated that pre-K preschool number. When we met with Denise, she really told us that they can take a few more in. So I think Ken was going to work on that on the chart for enrollment, that we can add some. And And then the homeschool withdrawals, we have about 38 students. They do recognize that the larger kindergarten and first grade cohorts next year, because of delayed entry, he's saying 15 students, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than that, you know, across the district. And then students who enter Groton Public Schools who would have traditionally enrolled in the regional magnets, hoping that we'll get some of those kids back, especially in the lower grades when we have these, you know, brand new elementary themed schools and opportunity to be in your districted school or to be in a lottery to go to another magnet school in the district.
I did notice that there were quite a few students that enrolled at Sacred Heart because they were going 5 days a week.
And
So I don't know if
yeah,
those children will come back.
well, the parents actually talked to the principals and said that this is for this 1 year and then they'll be back. Many of the parents did talk to us about that,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah.
So this kind of displays in a bigger, clearer way what Rita was pointing out to us. In the same school, we definitely are looking at the grades 3 through 5 to enhance enrollment somehow, some way, and figure out what to do with that oversized projected kindergarten. Remember, they're just projections. And the way they get it is by taking, you know, over time, the different sized kindergarten classes and averaging them. So Mystic is a little closer to the mean. You know, they certainly have room to bring in more students. And Northeast Academy, there's that concern, even going from, you know, from in the grades 2 and 3. So.
So this this chart, Susan, when you look at the Mystic and the Thames, that the reason why they're holding at 521 or 506 is that we need the 80 kids to, or whatever, to make it to the 640
Right.
For magnet. So that's what we're looking for.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just making sure I understand.
Susan, did we have 120? Did we have 240 children in pre-K now?
No.
Or is that
This year,
something new?
the numbers are really down in preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten. And I think its parents just did not want to send kids into this environment. It was more for health
Right.
and safety reasons.
But I meant for next year, the projections, 120 in each school.
Well, yes, and actually Nadine is overseeing that, and she's doing screenings right now for preschool, pre-K, for typical peers. And she's
Right.
even encouraging 3-year-olds to come into the pre-K in the spring, and then they can continue on. We're also going to be providing transportation. So I talked to Kim about possibly having, you know, a real close look at transportation and how we can do this, and maybe even kind of an audit to see, you know, how we can be really efficient with the buses. And we do have this new TransFinder. Is it TransFinder is the bus program? And so I've talked to Dennis about getting some consult on that so we can really look for efficiencies. And, you know, by providing pre-K and preschool typical peers a bus ride in and out of school, I think that's going to be a great enhancement and encouragement for our families. We really do want to fill those seats, you know, in those programs. So that'll be also marketing. So is that it for McBroom?
That's the end of that.
That's the end of that one?
Yep. I'll stop sharing.
Yep. And now the fun one, FTE.
Yeah, so this is a two-part. So it was pages 4-1 and 4-2. It was one piece of paper, both sides. This went into the green section. And let me pull it up.
You need a magnifying glass for
I
this
know,
one.
we
Oh,
might
I
have
know.
to see if you can zoom it.
We got to make it bigger.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. I did make it bigger here so you could see it, but so just to walk you through this, and then we can go back and look at the actual numbers. But this first page, there's two boxes. The top box is the positions that are funded through this budget that we're looking at, and it has just the 7 schools you'll notice, plus central office and districts wide. That's what the DW stands for. The second box down is this is the total number of employees throughout the Groton Public School system. So this includes the grant funded as well as the enterprise funded positions at Treehouse and at the lunch program. And the second page just goes into a little more detail on that second box, and so it gives a little more of a breakdown. Like of administrators and teachers and paras, just so you can see, where the changes year over year might have been happening. For instance, we're going to be down 1 custodian due to the elementary school consolidation, and you'll see under custodians 117, it goes from 34 this year to 33. Just an example.
And you have to look at, you usually think to look left to right. And I was talking to Ken about this, this is just going against my grain, but you have to look right to left.
Yeah.
So you see at the end of the chart, the last column is FY21.
Yeah.
Prior to that is the FY22. So when I first looked at principals and I said 7 to 8, we didn't add a principal, we took one away, but you have to look 8 to 7.
And who's the administrator we added? 9 to 10.
That was addition of the data manager.
Okay.
Yeah, so overall administrators in total didn't change, but there was a change, reduction in a principal and a increase in administration.
Right. And I noticed that the 2 extra classroom teachers in 101, that was in the elementary. The 3 elementary schools, they had 54, and now the 2, Thames River and Mystic River, are going to have 56 teachers. So I did have a question about that, why we were increasing.
Well, we're hoping for efficiencies. We've actually done a survey of the teachers and we've looked to see who's actually going to be teaching in those 2 different schools and where are the transfers. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. We have several teachers on 1-year assignment. So It just might be an adjustment after the lottery happens. Rita, even after the survey happens, we'll see where people are landing. So we'll know where those FTEs really need to go.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back up to the top here. I don't know if we wanted to discuss this chart any further, but year over year, it's about the same number of FTEs that is funded by this budget, 790.7 in this budget, and it's 790.45 in the prior year budget. So actually, it's a slight increase of about a half not even a quarter of a person.
Well, and when you said, while we might be reducing 1 principal, we've added 1 student data manager. So that's really a kind of net of 0. Dollar-wise, it might be different, but
Yeah, exactly. There were some positions that were added, and we'll look at that on the next slide, which is that payroll reconciliation that I had sent out. But we eliminated, so they kind of balanced out. Do we want to go to the payroll reconciliation?
I would say so. That's
Okay.
the next place to go. Let's do
So
it.
the other document that was sent to you was a payroll reconciliation. Doesn't really go into the binder. Really, it's really just informational. Where is it? It is right here. And this is similar to what we looked at last week. It's the same numbers, really. It's just that it's presented in a landscape format, so you can see the additions and the reductions. So on the left-hand side, these are the additions to payroll, and that includes all the contractual and non-contractual salary increases. Some of them are just budgeted at this point as a placeholder, but the driving number here is with the teachers, the 983, which represents about 3% increase. And then these are the positions that we added. I think we've talked about these before, but the social worker, literacy interventionist
At Fitch.
the special ed Apex program teacher, which was a conversion from a tutor, ELL teacher, the English as a second language, that's also called TESOL, I guess. Special education teacher, physical education, approach to learning, that's the ATL teacher, and the data manager position. So total additions to payroll over last year's budget, 1.8 million. But then on the right-hand side, we have the reductions, and these are the positions that were eliminated due to the elementary school consolidation, the principal, media specialists, art teachers, some of these positions that we've talked about. We also talked about some teachers that we transferred to the MSAP grant because we're picking up the busing. And so that's 2 science teachers and 1 project lead the way teacher.
Or half.
Per half, yep. I'm sorry. And then there were some adjustments, reductions that we needed to make in order to balance out. There was the actual retirements this year versus the budget. We were a little bit better than what we had budgeted. We over budgeted on the curriculum coordinators because we didn't know who they were going to be last year. We did reduce paras and tutors to pay for some of the positions that were added on the left-hand side. And then there were a couple of salary adjustments for admin folks. So total reduction of 837,787. And so this skinny box on the bottom kind of just shows you that this 49,203,539 is what we had budgeted last year. You put in those additions of 1.8 and take out the reductions of 837,000, and that 50,167 is what's in the budget for this year.
Quick question.
Please.
And Ken, you just said something that perked my ears. You talked about retirements. You know, do we know how many people are retiring this year?
Well,
Have
so
we
far,
got an estimate so far? And what's that number?
is Lori on here? I think it's 3 or 4 that we know
It's
of.
3.
Wow.
3, that's correct.
Yeah, they
I
had
was
until
expecting it higher for some reason.
Is it February 1st by contract?
We had advanced the retirement date into December this year in order to plan for the consolidation of the elementary schools. So we do have all the anticipated retirements in right now, unless something unexpected comes up later in the spring or the summer.
And that does typically happen in years past, that you might have a couple that end up deciding at the very end of the year.
Or an unexpected resignation, something happens.
Right, they move, right?
Yep, move, yep. That's right.
But I do appreciate the suggestion to do it landscape. To me, it's kind of more like a balance sheet, and with the additions and the reductions, and I think it looks good. And those positions that we had added, even though that we've had them this year and we're looking at them as addition for next year, I think many of those were supported through the CARES Act or the coronavirus. We were able to really, because of the description of the grant and the support that they gave, during the coronavirus times, that we were able to support them for part of this year, at least, underneath those different grants.
So if we were forward thinking, because why stay just thinking about this current budget when we need to be thinking about the next budget, is that I see the reductions that we moved the transfer to the grant, right? The science teacher and the 0.5. At some point, we're going to have to assume them and our transportation stuff. And Susan, I love your optimism that maybe we can be able to find some efficiencies, but it's still going to be an expensive part of our budget. It is, because we are transferring 5,000, I'm making up the number, 4,000 students throughout the district, right? And so I share concern about sort of like I think that that's great, and I also think that that's cool that we efficiently used our CARES money, but I'm going to be really optimistic and to say that we're going to be out of a pandemic, and that this country is not going to, or this world is not going to jump into another one.
Hopefully.
We're not going to have the federal monies. And so what are we going to do about those positions? Or do we see that those positions are going to be absorbed by something, or are we going to cut them? Because I could hear the good people of Groton kind of saying that these are lots of positions that we've added into grants, and how are we going to assume them? And maybe this is not part of this conversation, but I do think that we have to be thinking about that, because we'll be saddling, whatever board it is for the next several years about having multiple positions. Lee.
Actually, I think I've been on the board for a little over 5 years now, going on 6. And that is a question we ask ourselves every single year. Anytime you have a grant, you have to think about what happens when that grant is over. And we've been good at it. And mostly because of Susan with her grant abilities. We just, we do the best we can.
Right.
Well,
I'm just saying that's a lot of money, Lee. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think that this board does do a decent job at looking at stuff. I'm not going to disagree with you, but we've added lots of different positions because we could, and we needed them through the CARES. And also, so I don't know if that means that this board is, going to say, what are the competitive grants that are out there that we can then try to utilize. Once again, I'm not trying to take airspace, but this is great. I agree with Susan. The landscape is just so much easier.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Thank you.
That was Rita's idea.
On that. But I just I worry about that 543,000 and change of positions that we added, and that we added largely because of the CARES Act. Where is that going to come from next year? And then the 147 when the MSAC grant becomes different. Because my understanding of that grant is that every year the funding goes down because the purpose of the grant, right, is to have the town own more and more, or the place to own more and more of those positions.
So I think the gradual release is the way to go. So in a lot of our grants, what we'll do is if there's a staffing component, we upload that towards the beginning, even professional development, and then we wean ourselves off so that we're able to then take it on, and we kind of share some of that cost. With the CARES Act 2, where it's supposed to be double what the CARES Act 1 was, and it extends through 2023, I think that's an opportunity to work with the board and do some forward thinking about how can we use that as a gradual release model so that it won't hit us like $500,000 all in one year. So we'll work together on that.
No, I hear you. Once again, I just think it's real important for, I always think about budgets like this year, and then also the following year and the following year, just because it's important to kind of hold that thread.
You're right. You're right.
I couldn't agree with you more, Kim. And I'm also still amazed at that literary interventionist salary, making more even than our dated manager. But
I'm just very thankful that they found someone that's worth that amount of money that can help our kids, because we've identified that as an area in our district where kids needed that support. So
it's one person.
But for me, that is money well spent if we have kids who are going to meet the academic requirements that are set before us. So,
and
is that in the high school, that position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you, it's essential.
We do have top step master teachers who have worked for Groton for a while, who have multiple certifications, and that is kind of what the salary looks like.
Oh.
So that
Yeah.
is like for the people that, you know, are really like teacher leaders and they've been here a while and they have multiple certifications. And like I had said the last time, the literacy interventionist needs to be a reading consultant. And that's
Right.
a pretty high-powered certification. And so that doesn't surprise me, that number.
Right.
So,
Well, we used to have two at Fitch, but they weren't paid like that much. I know
if they retired, they might have been by the time they retired.
All right, what's next?
So I think we're going to bring you to a calendar and call it a night and see what our next steps are. How does that sound?
Good.
So Ken, if you want to share that,
Yep,
our latest document.
got it right here. Okay. So, can we see that? That's up on the screen?
Make it a little
Yeah.
bigger.
Certainly. How's that?
That's good.
You
Uh,
know
But we
what's too
didn't get
small
through.
when you see Rosemary's eyeballs right on the screen?
Well, Joyce sent this to us today.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was sent just today. It was updated. So last week we did start. We had an orientation. Next week we were supposed to do go through special education and adult education today, but we moved that to the next workshop, which is February 1st. Next week is a regular board meeting week, so we won't.
But Susan, I don't think we have a lot on the agenda. We have a couple things that we have to pass. Do we have a lot on the agenda?
I have the agenda somewhere.
And Susan, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, I'm assuming, when we meet. So I kind of think this is what my fear is. We're in mild winter weather right now, and I know that we're all Zoom and whatever, but we have to, I don't want us to run and make everything heavier in the end of February, because we just don't know. If this past year is any indication, we just don't know what's going to hit us. I am wondering, Susan, if you and I can see if we can parcel some of the stuff that we were supposed to talk about tonight and get it into the next week's meeting. And once again, have a short and condensed, get the stuff that we need to get voted on onto our regular board meeting, and then and move into another budget
So
workshop.
my recommendation, if you look at the 17th of February, is that that's really my departments, that's teaching and learning, and some support services too. So that we could certainly take and lift that up with a board meeting. But the special education and the adult ed is going to be a full evening, so I would not try to load that up. But the
No.
one down at the 17th would work out nicely.
Yeah, but Susan, tonight we were supposed to go through section 5, page 6 through 83, and I know we did elementary, but we were supposed to kind of cover all that stuff. So are you saying that you would flip-flop support services and section number 5?
Well, I mean, I think that's more doable than special education.
Oh yeah, no. Special education is all on its own.
Yeah, I feel like they need to be on their own. But I could certainly take that, what's coming up on the 17th, since it is my area. And I could, we could do that right after the board meeting if you wanted.
What is the will of the board?
I still was wondering, since we didn't finish what we were going to do today, when are we doing that?
That's my question.
That's my
I know.
question too. When are we doing regular instruction?
Right.
So like
Wasn't that
art
tonight?
program and culinary arts and science and math, those types.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Section
5-6.
5-6. Yeah.
Did we do that next week?
Can we just scoot it down? I mean, if you say we only have a little bit to work on or pass for 125, why don't we add, at least if we get started, on it. If we can't finish it all, maybe we just need to, adjust, adapt, modify, and overcome these time, barriers.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
We
can do
might be able to do our regular Board of Ed in an hour and 15 minutes and go with another budget. I think we could.
I think we
And
need
that's what
to.
we have done in the past
Well, we
several years.
can.
Yeah, that's what we have done in the past several years, is have a Board of Ed meeting and then go into a budget workshop.
Yeah. I'm a
So-
little tired.
I like the idea.
Me too.
I
When
think
are we going to do Schedule C?
What's Schedule C?
Schedule C is all the additional, it's usually at the end of our budget book.
It's like
and
coaches.
That would be
Every,
athletic.
it's not just coaches, it's all
Yes,
the
I
clubs,
said
it's
it's
all
like.
this, it's all, yeah, it's a lot.
Well, it is.
It's on 2.8 right now.
It's on 2.8.
Yeah, on the 2.8 athletics and operations.
Correct.
Yep.
So that's Schedule C, too.
Yes, okay, I got it.
Okay.
No, I think that is a good plan to finish up the regular education the night of the board meeting next week. And then we can just keep going with what we have here for the rest of the time.
Mhm. I think that's good.
And we still have the 22nd, which is, you have the finalized, which is kind of light. So if we didn't get to everything, we could always put something there. And then you have the regular ed board meeting where you'll be holding, I think that's the board budget adoption.
You do realize that's Washington's birthday, right?
So,
No, that's not the day that we celebrate, is it? It's
No,
President's Day. I'm sorry, my mistake.
So
Julie,
I think people need to realize that on February 22nd, which is our regular board meeting, which would be the nice place for us to vote on the budget, that we might have to hold a budget meeting on the 23rd or the 24th to then finalize the budget. So,
Yep.
I mean, we've also done that before. We've had, a special Board of Ed meeting to just to do the budget. So, so Susan, what I'm hearing, the will of the board is that we're going to end tonight, and that we're going to we're going to do our regular board meeting. Susan, you and I will pay attention to making sure that meeting has what it needs, that we need to get covered, but that we don't add any more fluff, and that we try to get this regular ed section done, and then we can just follow through suit.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Does that sound like a plan, guys?
Yep.
Absolutely.
that's a
All
plan.
right, listen, it is so, Andrea.
I have a question. I asked Joyce when the Martin Luther King Scholars were going to be introduced to the board, and she gave me January 25th, which is next Monday.
She's got it on there.
And you're going to stay with that.
Yeah, I
need to-
mean, it's on it. I haven't talked to Kim yet, but
Right.
it's on there.
Well, when you make a decision, let me know because we're working with scholars. Please.
okay,
Thank you.
I think it is a good time. As Kim said, it's kind of a light Board of Ed meeting. There's not a whole lot on here. But we'll review this tomorrow. Kim, were we going to meet at 7:30? 7:45?
7:45, because we look
Okay.
prettier at 7:45 than 7:30. That's what I heard. All right, any other questions or comments?
No.
Stop
I will
sharing.
take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second?
second,
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain. I think that motion is carried. You guys, good work. Good question.
Thank you,
Bye.
Thank
Good night,
you.
all.
team.
Stay well.